Hi there, it's Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com with this week's episode of the Market Monday. So first of all, the first thing I want to talk about is what we know about Modern Masters, which is 3, maybe 4 cards in the set. The packaging was just spoiled, which does give us artwork, which does line up with cards that do exist. I was pretty scared when I saw this because it looked like Elspeth to me, but when you actually look at the image, it's Stoic Angel. So why I was scared is usually there's only 2 Planeswalkers in Modern Masters, and we have one of them here, being Domri Raid. And so if that was Elspeth, that meant there would be no Liliana, which would just be a disaster for the Modern Masters 2017. So I am a little bit disappointed about Domri. Domri is my favorite Planeswalker ever printed, but Domri isn't really worth a lot of money. What is it, like $5-6? I mean, it's not very high. I do love its abilities. It does see some fringe play in Modern, but I was hoping for Karn. If you look at the Planeswalkers that are heavily played in Modern, it's going to be Ugin, Karn, and Liliana. To some extent, Nahiri, and every now and again you'll get some other cards like Gideon, Koth, but they're not as staples as Liliana and Karn. So everyone was hoping for those 2 cards. They both also have a pretty penny attached to them. And so when I saw this, that almost looked like Angel until I saw the wings and really looked up the art. Then I realized, okay, this is just going to be a bulk rare. I think Stoic Angel's not worth anything. And the other card that's also in here is going to be Griselbrand, which is a good inclusion at Mythic. I think it's between the $15 and $20 range, just because this was printed into Oblivion as a Grand Prix promo a few years back, or I think it was 2015. Correct me if I'm wrong. This was the Grand Prix promo. Grand Prix promos have a huge stock, especially when you're holding Grand Prix that have like 3,000 people. So yeah, Griselbrand the price got just completely killed by the promo. But Griselbrand does see heavy play in Goryo's Vengeance decks, and you'll see it every now and again in a few other decks, and it is starting to see a lot more play in these Breaking and Entering decks. So I'm glad that Goryo's Vengeance is going to be in the set. We all thought that it was because Avacyn Restored. It was probably the perfect target between that and Caverns of Souls for the Avacyn Restored kind of chase cards. So the other one that people are debating about is this card right now, which people are thinking it's Snapcaster Mage, but Snapcaster Mage just did get some other art with a promo. But then again, it does look like Innistrad style. Look at the clothing on here. It looks like more of Innistrad clothing. It does look like a mage. What mage is out of Innistrad? Snapcaster Mage? That's my guess. Some people are saying Meddling Mage. Yeah, Meddling Mage sees some play in blue-white Death and Taxes decks, but other than that, it doesn't see a lot of play. That'd be kind of a bust for the art. The last art was Etched Champion, and what was the art before that? Was City of Brass. City of Brass was kind of meh for the box art, but Etched Champion is a very staple card, and it was kind of their theme, which was going over to Scars and Mirrodin onwards. And so Scars and Mirrodin block was a focal point of Modern Masters 2015, and it just all made sense. So I'm thinking this is Snapcaster Mage, and if it is, that is huge, because we do need the Snapcaster Mage reprint, and that will actually sell the sets. Let's hope that it's a rare. Etched Champion is a rare, and yeah, then we're good to go. So that's what we know. If you have any of these cards, I highly suggest unloading them. It's probably too late to unload them, but we do know at least 3 reprints in the Modern Masters. The second topic I want to talk about is there was 2 Grand Prix over the weekend, and we have the deck list from let's see. So here's Vancouver. I'll find the other ones here in just a second here. We'll look and find. I think the other one was Brisbane. So Vancouver, the top 8 was, I believe this was won by, was it Lantern Control that won this, or was that Brisbane that won? No, it was Death Shadow. Death Shadow won the GP Vancouver. And there was also quite a few Death Shadows deck in the top 32. So Death Shadows have morphed over. There's a good article over at MTG Goldfish by Saffron Olive about the evolution of I love the Evolution series by Seth, one of the best articles over at MTG Goldfish. And he goes over the evolution of Death Shadow, and this is the latest evolution. A lot of people thought this deck was dead because of the Gitaxian Probe nerf, but now it's turned over to more of a control-based deck with, it actually looks a lot like Jund, because it's running Liliana the Veil, it's running the Thoughtseize and Inquisitions. The old version just ran Thoughtseize, and so Thoughtseize was just like rip out a card and do 2 life. Even Collective Brutality is in here. So Fatal Push, Kolgan's Command, Teamer Battle Rage. No Lightning Bolts, which is actually kind of crazy, but they are using Tarfire because it does pump up the Tarmogoyf, as the tribal, for whatever reason, is considered a card type. I've never got that. Why enchantment creature's not, but tribal instant is. So it's funny how that works with like the Delirium and with like Tarmogoyf. But there isn't really any other Delirium in this deck. I don't believe. Yeah, so it's not that big of a deal other than just getting the Tarmogoyf up as big as possible. So this deck was huge out there. Death Shadow is a card that tanked after the Gitaxian Probe banning, but it just has a new resurgence. If you go over and look at some of the daily changers, the Death Shadow has gone up $5.76 since last night, since it did win that particular Pro Tour. So food for thought there. So anyway, some of the other lists that were popular: Abs and Company using the Renegade Rallier, and then it has the Archangel Thune. So this had both combos in it. It doesn't have the other combo with the Renegade Rallier. They're just using this as like another Eternal Witness. I don't think there's any sort of infinite here that I see. I know that Renegade Rallier can, what they can do is they can, with the let's see here, where is the stupid thing? Viscera Seer, Renegade Rallier, and is what the Sass, what's the card? I know it just went down here in a second. I saw it earlier. It's the white green creature that when you sack it to target a creature, when that target dies, return it back to the battlefield this turn. So the combo with it is gonna be the Viscera Seer with Renegade Rallier and the Eric's Daughter, isn't that what it's called? Something Safi's Eric's Daughter. I can't remember the card, but that creates like a loop. And then if you have a card like like even a Soul Sister or a Blood Arst out, that's infinite. So anyway, this is just the good old Abs and Company, using Collected Company and Court of Calling to try to find the Anafenza combo or the Spike Feeder and Archangel Thune combo, and then it just goes infinite life and your creatures get infinitely big and you tack in for lethal. So then we have another, this is the one that actually won, was the Joshua Layton's Death Shadow. I think it's the exact same list we just looked at. And a Merfolk. Good news is Merfolk actually made a top deck list, which is awesome because Merfolk is actually, some of these pieces are cheap in Merfolk. The whole thing that's keeping Merfolk back is Aether Vial. If we see an Aether Vial reprint in Modern Masters, I think this is a very, very attainable deck at that point, because you have cards like Master of Waves. It isn't very expensive, and like the Harbinger of Tides and Tidebinder Mages are not that expensive. The Lords can get up there, and the Curse Catcher as well, but in comparison to other decks, this deck is not that expensive, especially if Vial gets the reprint. So that's huge news for Merfolk. Might have a resurgence again. This is the Master of Waves version of the deck, and I like this because I'm sitting on like 5 bazillion Tidebinder Mages as a spec. Back in the day, I did spec into Tidebinder Mage, and then right after I purchased them, this shenanigans, Harbinger of Tides, was printed in Origins, and it completely replaced the Tidebinder Mage. But the good news is this particular list did have 2 in the sideboard as well. So then we have some mono white Eldrazi and Taxes deck, with a Selfless Spirit in the deck. That's kind of a new addition to the deck. Other than that, it's basically the same old Death and Taxes deck we all have grown to love and hate. A little less Thought-Knot Seers. No Reality Smashers main in this. You see some Reality Smashers in these type of decks every now and again. Even lower on the Eldrazi Temples. So, good old Affinity still in here. No changes. Still the same old 2H Champion, 2 Master of Ethereum split with 2H Champion in the sideboard. Yep, this is a very, very kind of stock list. And yet again, another Death Shadows deck. Same list. This one actually had a Renegade Rallier in here. This card has just huge synergy with a multitude of cards in the format. And then we had a Naya Burn list that was heavier on the burn than, well, Mustard, yeah, that's about right. The Swiftspear Guide, Eidolon, and then Riftbolt, Lava Spike, Boros Charm, Searing Blaze. So 4 main board Searing Blaze. Sometimes that's relegated to the sideboard. Lightning Helix, too, in the main. That's huge. That's a lot different than that normally is with the Naya Burn. Usually Helixes are the sideboard. Or just not even included, because it's for 2 mana. There's spells that do more damage, more output of damage. 4 Skullcrack, 4 Lightning Bolt. Yep, we've seen this deck list a bazillion times. Even as a Deflecting Palm in the sideboard for Death Shadow matches or any sort of matches that's trying to get in with a huge creature. So that was a top 8. The other lists, a lot of Bant Eldrazi, Abzan. We have 8 Rack even that snuck in here. And man, this deck too is very, very attainable. If Liliana gets halved in price, this is going to be a budget deck. This is the whole thing right here. Liliana is holding this deck back. The Rack, Shriek, Affliction, all these cards are quite cheap. Inquisition, it got a reprint in Conspiracy. Thoughtseize is down to all-time lows. Yeah, so this is going to be a good deck to invest in if we get a Liliana reprint. So these are the decks that are working right now. I hate to talk about Modern as a investment strategy, other than these two Grand Prix were insanely popular. They both had great showings of attendees, and Grand Prix will be a thing moving forward. There'll still be what they say, like 9 per year. I don't know. It still has a healthy number of Grand Prix. I still would like to see, as everyone else, would like to see a Modern Championship, would like to see a Spotlight. As you can see with 2 Grand Prix, 2 of them, and this is the only movement with Modern. That isn't the greatest movement after it just got showcased, and this is all you're going to see. So what we saw with the Pro Tour and with the PTQ season that it was also Modern is we saw huge gains in basically every playable card went up during the Pro Tour and the Modern season. So there's the card I was talking about, Safi Eriksdotter, that works with Renegade Rallier. So anyway, this is all we see basically is a gain by Death Shadow and then just moderate gains by everything else. We do have this Basilisk Collar. Basilisk Collar is being played in a few decks sideboard as a one of. So it really is I don't know. Does this card, can you justify a $13 jump in Basilisk Collar just because of a few sideboard lists? See if we can see some Basilisk Collars in some of these sideboards here. I saw some earlier. It was more the Brisbane they had him in. All right, so Dredge was also a pretty big breakout. I think Dredge was more played in the other. We'll try to find the other top 8. Eldrazi Tron too was seeing a lot of play because it was pretty. The Walking Ballista was pretty good with the Urza's Tower or the Urza's Tron lands shenanigans. Then we have the Amulet Titan had a good showing. Infect deck. Jund's still a thing. So Grixis Control, but Sultai Control didn't seem to have a good showing, and neither did the Esper Control, which a lot of people were thinking because of Fatal Push was going to be a breakout deck. Maybe it's just too early before people have really fine-tuned their deck lists. So, yep, more Eldrazi Trons, more Bant Eldrazi. Got this Cancer, which is called Ad Nauseum, that needs to go. Ban this card already. Let's just get it out. I will. Here's my promise. Simian Spirit Guide goes, I'll start playing Modern. I hate this card. I just do not like the fast mana. It just leads to these decks that are high variance, and I do not like the high variance. Do I have a Simian Spirit Guide? I win. I don't. Okay, I'm too slow. I hate cards like this. Then we have more Titan Shift, more Elves, or we do have an Elves deck. Infect. Not a lot of like breakout decks. So anyway, I think that the biggest the biggest reason to invest is more information with the Modern Masters when we see it, because it's some of these decks are gonna become, if there's two things, if they do reprint the fetch lands, which tons of people are thinking they are going to be reprinted because Wizards has stated they don't want them in Standard. If the fetch lands are in Modern Masters, Liliana is in Modern Masters, and Snapcaster Mage is in Modern Masters, look at Grixis Control. Grixis Control, you're going to be wanting to invest in the other cards that do not get a reprint. I don't think Delver's going to get a reprint just because flip cards are so awkward, and I think it's pretty much confirmed flip cards are not in here. I think if they would have reprinted flip cards, Garruk would have been the other Planeswalker. They would have been Liliana and Garruk, and they would have printed 5 or 6, at least 5 flip cards to make it worthwhile to make a token. So Delver is not a card that's going to get reprinted. I don't think Serum Visions is going to get a reprint because it was just recently reprinted. All these cards could easily go up. I'm really liking Kolaghan's Command still. I think Kolaghan's Command's weird because it just got a spike because of Frontier. Frontier, actually, from people reporting that Frontier did fire, the side events did fire at these particular, the ones that had them. And I do know that like a lot of people have been posting too, there's been some major, like at least the local scenes, like 40-man, 50-man tournaments have been happening at some of these regional Frontier tournaments. So that's good news for Frontier. There's most of these cards. Wow, look at this though. If Snapcaster and Fetchlands and Liliana get reprinted, Jeez, this is going to be a budget deck. Crazy. All right, so let's just try to go over here and see if I can find the coverage archive here, and we're going to look for the Brisbane tournament. All right, so let's see. There's the top 8 list of. We'll look at both of these. So then on to Brisbane, we have the deck that won, I believe, was Lantern Control, and it beat out Dredge. So Dredge is back with a vengeance. Golgari Thug is the card of choice to replace the Golgari Grave Troll. I stated this after the banning that Thug would just, the deck isn't dead. It was probably, now that I'm looking back at this, it was probably the perfect nerf was the Golgari Grave Troll, because it basically was effectively just a Dredge 2 nerf to the deck, and now they are just, this is the exact same list with Golgari Thug rather than Golgari Grave Troll, and a 3 of instead of, I think it was Stinkweed Imp was a 3 of, Golgari Grave Troll to a 4 of, Stinkweed Imp goes now to a 4 of, Golgari Thug goes to a 3 of, and everything else. No new innovation to this, still the Bloodghast Prized Amalgam version, and this one is heavier on the life and the loam. Some of those were running, there isn't like the flashback card to give everything plus 2/+0 that some of the lists were running. For like just making Narcomoebas a lot more of a threat. But it's this is a very big stock list. A Lantern Control actually did win the entire thing. This is another deck that I do believe Abrupt Decay will get a reprinting, but Surgical Extraction just continues to go up. It actually is making Modern Masters 2 profitable because of cards like Surgical Extraction and Noble Hierarch at the rare that are really, really pricey at this point. So Infernal Tutor, I think this has been in the kind of the stock list. Collective Brutality is starting to see a home here. Ancient Stirrings, Inquisition Thoughts. Yep, this is just the stock list of the good old Lantern Control deck. Kind of like, the thing that's really holding back this deck is Mox Opal. I don't think that we're going to see a reprint in Mox Opal for Modern Masters, just because of how difficult it is to make it work in a draft format, where Metalcraft is not the theme. And the last time around it was the theme. It did get the Expedition reprint, but this card has just continued to go up, 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 up. A lot of us have been talking about, this is on the watch list, I would say, from Wizards. There are a lot of pros that want Mox Opal gone out of the format, and if you actually look at the number of viable decks because of Mox Opal, it is a prime target for a ban in the future if any of those become out of hand. I think that all of the decks are still viable without Mox Opal. They just don't have the explosiveness. So I don't know exactly, where they're going to go with this particular card. It's a high risk, high reward card though, because you can destroy things and then it's just kind of a dead card. But anything that costs 0 is problematic in a format. This card has been spiking just because mainly the Pure Steel Paladin decks have been going crazy. I don't think any Pure Steel made the top 32s of either one of these Grand Prix though. Here is another Mox Opal deck with the Affinity. Affinity is probably going to have some pretty good growth in 2017 just because I don't think any of these cards are going to be reprinted. We just saw a Cranial Plating reprint in the Commander sets. We just saw a Darksteel Citadel reprint in the Commander decks. This card has been printed so many times. Ornithopters in Standard at the moment. But the rest of these cards like Steel Overseer, Etch Champion, Arcbound Ravager, all of these I think are prime investment targets just because they're not going to get a reprint. Well, most likely not going to get a reprint. Another Dredge list. Dredge was everywhere at this particular tournament. We have a white-red kind of Nahiri lock deck with the Emrakul, good old Emrakul, Chalice Void, Blood Moon lock, and just the Nahiri Planeswalker decks. We have the Living End actually made the top 8, which is surprising. I don't think that many people were packing the Rest in Peace hate like they were when Dredge was huge, or the Leyline of the Void, and this was able to slip in. A Blood Moon main board, this is kind of crazy because usually Blood Moon, I guess if you're the deck playing around it, you'll know what to get, but Blood Moon is a card I usually put in to combat Living End when I was playing Scred. It was one of my best cards, my best ways to beat it, because it just slowed it down so much. But Living End's always going to be good when the Graveyard Hate is not there. So I think with this particular tournament, people were not prepared for Dredge and Living End, and both of these slipped into the top 8. We have Black Greentron, which tries to be a little more proactive with cards like Collective Brutality to rip out cards. And yeah, that's really the only thing that's black is in here for is the Collective Brutality. and it does get some. No, it doesn't even really. Yeah, surgical extraction, but that's a colorless card, to be honest. So, yep, just collected brutality in that one. And Abzan with only 2 fatal pushes in the deck. So let's look at the top 32 decks here. We have Eldrazi Tron. So I think Eldrazi Tron proved itself in 2 tournaments. Look at Endbringer. This card is just bulk as bulk gets. And Thought Knot Seer and Reality Smasher Matter Reshaper package will probably be a good investment. A little bit of an insight. The Oath of the Gatewatch is out of print. I can't get it from Wizards anymore. So everything else in Standard I can still get from Wizards. Oath of the Gatewatch is out of print. So these are great. Those boxes, Oath of the Gatewatch, are probably good spec targets for boxes. And Oath of the Gatewatch cards, these 3 would be the ones that I like from Endbringer to a point, just because you can pick these up for like 10 cents, I'm sure. It sees legacy play even. These 3 are prime targets to invest in. I think that they're all pretty low. We'll check them out in a second. From Oath of the Gatewatch. I think at rotation they finally will go down even more. They're not seeing much play in Standard just because there's not a lot of good options for colorless lands, like lands that produce colorless mana. And yeah, that's just when we got the caves, like the Caves of Kolos, the Pain lands rotated out, was very, very tough for this type of strategy to compete in the Standard format at the moment. The thing is, these cards do mesh up very well against the green-black archetype. And Thought Knot Seer and Reality Smasher are very good against Jeskai Saheeli. So I don't know. It might be a matter of time before the mono black or the mono blue Eldrazi hits in Standard. But we haven't seen them recently be able to affect the meta. So the one thing I think about the Reality Smasher gets the best in Standard is Reality Smasher's Bane was Reflector Mage. Reality Smasher could not beat Reflector Mage. It got in for some damage and then got reflectored back, and then it was just such a huge curve. Ishkanah was the other card. Ishkanah just completely stopped Reality Smasher in its tracks. You got 3/1/2s and a 3/5. You could not attack into with Reality Smasher. The best case you could do is kill 2. Either kill an Ishkanah or kill 2 spiders. And it was just unplayable because of Reflector Mage and Reality Smasher. With those 2 kind of not really being represented, with one being banned and the other one really not being played, I think Reality Smasher is a card everyone should look at again in Standard to see if it's viable. And Thought Knot Seer is just great at ripping out Verdant Gearhulks as well as ripping out Saheeli and Torrential Gearhulk. Like, this card is huge in the format at the moment, and I think it's just a matter of time before someone can make a good Eldrazi deck. And kind of weird how that works in Magic. Everyone gets obsessed with the latest set, and they forget that these older cards. In my opinion, if it were like if Oath of Gatewatch were being the set that was out right now, and the black-green Snakes decks has existed, like say that the Kaladesh was before Battle for Zendikar, I think we'd see a bunch of Eldrazi decks right now in Standard, just because of this is how brewing works. And then people, I like to call it, they get inbred. People start like building decks because other decks did good, and it just, the format becomes so inbred that people build because this was built, because this was built, and it's hard to innovate past that or move past that. We have another Jund deck. We have no real innovation here, right? Yep, just this one of Huntmaster, one of Kalidas, and one of Pia and Krandalar. We have another Bant Company, Eldrazi Tron. Yep, Eldrazi's here to stay. Here's my picks for the week. Usually I give picks. This is it. Invest in these. Invest in the Oath the Gatewatch Eldrazi. I think they've completely planted themselves as staples in Modern. I think that Bant Eldrazi being the huge breakout deck from last year, actually the only deck to actually go up in value, the rest of them went down. And now with Eldrazi Tron, it is here to stay. We have another Abzan, and we have another Lantern Control, another Eldrazi Tron, another Infect, another Bant Eldrazi, and a Goro's Vengeance deck. Is this the one with nope, this isn't the one trying to cheat in with Breaking Entering. And then we also have Esper Planeswalkers. Yay, one of them made it. The Fatal Push shell with Gideon and Liliana and even a Narset. That's kind of cool. Control is actually viable in the format. And then we also have a Bring to Light Skate Shift. So I guess if we were to say what is the big breakout card or the big breakout strategies, Dredge is still here to stay. Dredge is here to stay. The Death Shadows is still viable, so both those did dodge the bannings, and Eldrazi's. Eldrazi's are insanely good. Still at, here we go, here's even another one, a white-black Eldrazi. Remember, this is his Death and Taxes Eldrazi. So I guess just to end this video, we're at the $25 mark. I'll try to keep you updated as things are spoiled for Modern Masters. I think the biggest thing that you should be looking at right now is not what cards are being reprinted in Modern Masters, but what cards are not being reprinted. And if we get cards, especially like the Fetchlands and Liliana, then what cards are going to be viable pickups? What cards are just going to go through the roof because they did not get a reprinting? So I'm thinking Affinity is great because I don't think any of those are getting reprinted in Modern Masters 2017. And look at Oath the Gatewatch. Start investing in the Oath the Gatewatch cards. Try to pick them up for trade fodder. You have a lot of standard players that just are like, yep, not seeing play, not seeing play. Let's unload them. And this is a great time to pick these the Holy Trinity, the Matter Reshaper, Thought-Knot Seer, and Reality Smasher up for these Eldrazi decks, which I would say, if we were looking at the most placements in the top 8 and top 32 of both of these tournaments, this would be the most surprising one, is how many Eldrazi, Bant Eldrazi's, Death and Taxes Eldrazi's, and Eldrazitrons made the top 32. So those are my 3 picks. Of course, I'm looking forward to what your 3 picks of modern investments would be in the comment section below. And again, I'll keep you updated with all of the spoilers for the Modern Masters. It should be shortly here. When do they, is there an official list or official date they're spoiling these? Because this set is coming out insanely quick. The 17th is when it ships. So GameStore should have this the 14th. And that is just, oh man, they are really cutting it short. Not very hyped at all for the Modern Masters 2017. At least Wizards isn't. Anyway, this has been Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com. Thanks for watching.